All right, let's dive into one of the most important and honestly one of the most delicate parts of the entire cultivation process, the final 3 weeks of flowering. This is it. This is the moment that really separates a good harvest from a truly unforgettable one. We're going to break down the advanced techniques that'll push your plants to their absolute peak. Let's get into it. So you've put in the work, months of it. Everything's looking great, and you're right at the finish line. But this final stretch is a real tightrope walk. This is where those super volatile compounds, we're talking about the precious terpenes that give you all that incredible flavor and aroma, can literally just poof, evaporate into thin air. So the real challenge isn't just about holding on to them, it's about pushing the plant to create even more. You know, for years, the standard advice was simple. Just flush with plain water to get rid of all the nutrients. But we know so much more now. The modern approach is way more sophisticated. It's what we call an advanced ripening protocol. This is not about starving your plant. It's all about precision. We're strategically pulling back on certain things while boosting others, all to unlock the plant's full genetic potential for aroma and potency. So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the unique challenges of this final phase. Then, we're going to go week by week, covering that initial transition and the strategic fade. After that, we'll explore a powerful combo I like to call the terpene trifecta, and we'll finish up with 2 pro-level techniques: controlled drought stress, and, of course, the art of nailing the perfect harvest time. Okay, Section 1, the final weeks challenge. Right now, your plant is making a massive shift in its focus. It's pretty much done building mass. It's not trying to get any bigger. Instead, every last bit of its energy is being redirected into producing resin, maturing those trichomes, and creating that complex symphony of compounds that really defines the quality. So how do you know you're actually in this phase? Well, the plant gives you some pretty clear signals. The flower growth just slows right down. Those little white pistils start to darken up, turning amber or brown. And if you look under a scope, the trichome heads start to shift from being crystal clear to a cloudy, milky white. You might also notice the plant isn't drinking as much, and those lower fan leaves start to yellow. The final act has definitely begun. And that brings us right into Section 2, Week 7, the transition. This is where we stop just reacting to the plant and start proactively managing this whole ripening process. We're setting the stage for a perfect finish. Okay, the single most important thing you can do right now is get on a daily trichome monitoring schedule. Seriously, every day. Get yourself a good 60 to 100x magnifier and look closely at the trichomes on the calyxes. And I mean the calyxes, not the little sugar leaves, because they mature way faster and they'll fool you. Check a few different spots, top and bottom, and keep notes on what you're seeing. You are watching for that critical shift from clear to milky to amber. Now this slide. This is where the magic really starts to happen. We're talking about the environmental taper. Essentially, we are simulating autumn indoors. Look at how we're steadily dropping the temperature each week. At the same time, we're stepping down the vapor pressure deficit, or VPD. By carefully lowering that VPD from that 1.4 kPa range down to around 1.1, we reduce stress on the plant, which is absolutely key to locking in those volatile terpenes. And you'll see we also taper down the CO2 because the plant's metabolism is naturally slowing down anyway. And this tapering strategy doesn't stop there. It extends to our lighting. We methodically reduce the light intensity, that's the ppfd, from a powerful 1,000 all the way down to 600. This mimics the weakening autumn sun. It's a huge signal to the plant that its life cycle is ending, and it pushes it to focus all its remaining energy on resin production. As you can see, some growers will even shorten that final week's light cycle down to 10 hours, just to really drive the point home. Okay, that brings us to the home stretch, weeks 8 and 9, and the concept of the strategic fade. This is the art and science of senescence. And trust me, it goes way beyond that old idea of just flushing with water. So this advanced senescence protocol is all about being surgical. Instead of a hard flush that basically shocks and starves the plant, our goal is to selectively eliminate only the nitrogen. And that right there is the key. We keep feeding other essential nutrients like phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and sulfur. This prevents the plant from panicking and allows its terpene-producing machinery to just keep running at full blast. So why go to all this trouble? Well, by cutting off the outside nitrogen supply, we force the plant to start pulling the nitrogen it has stored in its fan leaves. This is what triggers that beautiful, natural fade of colors. But more importantly, it reallocates the plant's energy directly into jacking up resin quality and terpene production, which can now continue at full speed. Now, while we're doing this strategic fade, we can actually hit the gas on terpene production with three key elements that all work together. This is what we'll call the terpene trifecta: magnesium, microbes, and enzymes. First up is magnesium, and this is so often overlooked. The plant's demand for magnesium actually goes up in late flower. I want you to think of magnesium as the actual key that unlocks the plant's ability to make resin. It activates a ton of enzymes that are directly responsible for building terpenes and cannabinoids. If you don't have enough magnesium at this stage, your aroma and potency are going to suffer, period. Supplementing here is crucial. Second, let's talk about the hidden world you can't even see, down in your root zone. A healthy microbiome is absolutely critical. Beneficial bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi, they act like partners for your plant. They make nutrients, especially phosphorus, way more available, which is essential for making resin. They basically make sure the plant has everything it needs for a really strong finish. Okay, you ready for an expert-level technique that can give you some incredible results? Let's talk about controlled drought stress. This is all about using the plant's own survival instincts to our advantage. And if you're wondering if it's worth the effort, just look at these numbers. The data is pretty wild. Research shows that when you do this correctly, drought stress can cause a massive increase in cannabinoids. We're talking THC up by 50%, THCA up 43%, and even CBD up by 67%. These are not small tweaks. This is a huge boost to your final potency. So why on earth does this work? Well, it triggers a powerful survival mechanism, something called the drought escape response. When the plant senses it's running out of water, it basically panics. It thinks it's dying, so it redirects all of its energy into reproduction. And for us, that means it starts pumping out more of that sticky, protective resin that's packed with cannabinoids and terpenes. It's a last-ditch effort to protect its flowers and ensure its genetic line survives. But you have to do this safely. This is critical. You start the protocol about 10 to 14 days before you plan to harvest. You let the medium dry out until the leaves just begin to droop. That's the near wilt point. Then you give it a heavy watering to fully rehydrate and flush out any built-up salts. After that, you let it dry out all over again, repeating this stress and recover cycle. That's what triggers that massive resin response without causing any permanent damage. So all of this incredible preparation, all this work, it all culminates in one final critical decision: knowing the exact, precise moment to cut the plant down to capture peak potency and flavor. And this all comes right back to reading those trichomes. If they're mostly clear, you're too early, potency will be low. When you get to about 50% milky, that often gives you a more energetic effect. The classic target for peak THC and a nice balanced profile is around 80% milky and 20% amber. If you wait longer, letting 50% or more turn amber, that THC starts to degrade into CBN, which is known for more of a sedative effect. So you really get to harvest for your desired outcome. And please, remember, the harvest is not the end of the line. All this hard work can be completely wasted if you have a poor dry and cure. A slow, controlled dry in a dark room, think 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit with 55 to 65% humidity, that is what's going to preserve all the terpenes you've just worked so hard to create. And really, that's the whole point. Applying these advanced techniques, the environmental taper, the strategic fade, boosting the biology in the soil, and using controlled stress, this is what elevates your work. You stop being someone who just grows a plant, and you become someone who crafts a truly premium, connoisseur-grade product. So there you have it. That's the roadmap, the science of perfect ripening. You now have the tools to go beyond just growing and start crafting something that's truly top tier. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.